Steve, how you doing?
Doing excellent, Dave. How about yourself?
Wonderful. Had a little bit of technical difficulties. I really wanted this to be live, but I've never done live Facebook video before. So, thank you for your patience and working with me on that. We're going to get the kinks out, but now we're together. Um, so I'm glad. I see you looking pretty sharp for a formal Friday, Steve.
Well, one of these benefits of this whole entire thing is to save on dry cleaning, right? And not have to wear those collared shirts. So I'm taking advantage of that.
I love it. I love it. Steve, there's so much going on in the world today. It's hard to follow everything, especially if we're not in those specific industries. And I'm getting a lot of questions about, Dave, what's going on with this mortgage forbearance? What are the rules here? And I am not a loan professional. I'm not in this industry, so I wanted to get you, who's very good at this and studied up, to share some light and kind of help inform us what's going on and tell us what the options are. Have you heard about mortgage forbearance, Steve?
Yeah. Again, thank you very much. I am by far no expert, but I have been listening to all the best experts in the field and I'm doing a lot of research on it. And I got to tell you, every single one of them is extremely concerned about this forbearance thing.
Why is that? I don't even know what the word means, maybe.
It's really funny. They use the word forbearance instead of deferment, right? What everybody thinking forbearance is, what they're thinking forbearance is really deferment. It's not forbearance. Deferment is, listen, you didn't pay your mortgage for 2-3 months. We'll add 3 or 4 months to the end of your mortgage and you'll be good. Okay. Forbearance is, listen, you don't have to pay your mortgage. And when all this is over, we'll discuss how you're going to pay me back.
So it's not free money?
No, it is definitely not free money. So hypothetically, you have $1,000 mortgage right now, right? And you take advantage of forbearance for 3 months, you owe $3,300. And they're going to expect that paid back within 6 months to a year. So now your mortgage payment, when this is all over, went up substantially. Not only that, you can't refinance, right? And we don't even know what challenges there would be if you're trying to sell the house until forbearance is paid back. If everybody remembers back in 2008, right, nobody knew what to do, right? When the housing market crashed, I remember a lot of people saying, hey, don't pay your mortgage for a month or two and then the banks will work with you. And then a bunch of people didn't pay their mortgage. And then the government came out with a program for everybody who did pay their mortgage and didn't fall behind. We have this program for you, right? We don't know what the unforeseen circumstances are going to be on forbearance. What we do know that's going to happen is, number one, you have to pay that back. There's very few banks that are saying you can add it on to the end. Companies are coming out right now and already saying they will not do a refinance for a mortgage that's in forbearance. If you took advantage of FHA loans and very little of a down payment on your house, you have the risk of going negative on your home. And these are the things we know today. All right, things are changing daily. The other thing they're very much concerned about with forbearance is there's no hardship requirement. That's the scariest thing about it.
So that means anybody can just raise their hand and say, forbear me. So there's not qualification.
All they have to do is go, I've suffered a hardship due to this virus. I want forbearance. That's it. No documentation, no nothing. And the problem with that is all the banks are making it sound like it's a gift. And
yeah, it sounds like, the bank is just telling you, I'll give you 3 months forbearance for now, and you don't have to pay any interest, and we won't accrue any extra fees or report. But what other kind of fees could be associated in there?
There's definitely interest. Interest is definitely accruing. Okay, there are no other fees, and the only real rule out there is that they can't report it to the credit agencies. But otherwise, there are no real rules yet.
Now, what happens because they don't have restrictions? What happens when everybody says, hey, I want mortgage forbearance? What effect could that have on the mortgage industry in a few months from now when you have all of a sudden 25% of the public not paying their mortgages anymore? couldn't that create a bigger downhill slope?
That's the biggest, scarier thing from all the people I'm listening to. That's what they're freaking out about, is that everybody's making it sound like it's free money and you got to be an idiot not to take advantage of it. And the people who don't need it, if they start taking advantage of it, the whole housing market can have a huge negative impact. All these companies, what happens is you get a mortgage, right? And after the person makes it, the bank gets a mortgage and they lay out the money. After the first person makes their first payment, the servicing company will take over. So these servicing companies right now, you don't have to pay your mortgage, but they still have to pay the taxes and the insurance. Okay, these people, the servicing companies that collect your mortgage payments, they have an escrow account. In escrow goes taxes and insurance. Now they're over there and they're working with the company, so the mortgage payment and the interest accrues and everything like that. But these servicers still have to pay the taxes and insurance. This could be the collapse of some major servicing companies. I posted a link on Facebook from David Habib. I've been listening to the guy from MBS Highway for the past year, and I tell you, this guy has been spot on. He had a bunch of wonderful guests in there and everything, and their biggest concern about forbearance is too many people taking advantage of it. It's a great program for those who truly need it. For those of the, if you're one of the 6 million people who lost their job in the past week, hang in there. And for people like you, you don't have the income, you don't have savings, this program is amazing. It can definitely help you out. But for those of you who your bosses have taken advantage of the loans out there to keep you on payroll, and for those who've been laid off, if you don't know, there are loans out there right now for small business, any business with 50 employees or less, where they'll give you money to keep people on payroll. And at the end of all this, if you show that it actually went to payroll, it becomes a grant and they don't have to pay it back. If you're one of those people and you're still getting your paychecks, you should not be taking advantage of forbearance for the good of the economy, for the good of the housing market, and for your own personal benefit. You might be saving some money right now, but it's going to cost you a lot more in the long run.
I like that you brought up in this big government package of $6 trillion or so already. There are these SBA programs. There are these other things that you can file for. There is options out there. One of the scariest things you told me, if you want to refinance, nobody knows how you're going to have to deal with this forbearance later down the road. It sounds like there's not a map for how things will get wrapped up or handled. For example, if you have a high interest rate, you want to refinance. I know you guys are doing a lot of refinancing right now, yeah?
Yes, and everything is being a challenge. IRS departments where we pull transcripts, appraisals, people want to go into their house, out of their house. The day of closing, before they fund, they need to get a hold of your employer to make sure you're still employed. Remember, 6% lost their jobs 6 million lost their jobs last week. So at the very last minute, they're calling up to see, are you one of those people, right? And then their biggest fear is you go ahead and refinance it before your first payment's due, you start asking for forbearance. Again, if so many people take advantage, these programs are out there for the people who need it. If people start taking advantage of it that don't need it, again, the unforeseen circumstances to them are huge, and the foreseen circumstances to the economy are tremendous. I mean, the government can easily fix this by just having the requirement of proving hardship, proving that you've been impacted by this, and that would solve a lot of problems. But again, keep in mind, this is not free money. All right, you have to pay this back. It's not getting rolled into the back of your loan. And this is what we know today. We don't know 2-3 months from now what other impacts this can have.
Yeah, could you imagine maybe your mortgage is $1,500, you take a couple months off, and then all of a sudden they add it on, and now you owe $2,000, $2,200. You could be even in a worse position. I guess it really comes down to a moral or philosophical question. Don't hoard, don't take what you don't need. This isn't free money. And I think that's the big info that we want to get out there to people. People with questions, hey, how does this work? What would you say? Number one, talk to your bank. Look at your own situation. Think about, if you really need that, what's best for you. Explore the other SBA options if you have that opportunity. What else would you recommend people in this time, Steve?
You know what? Stay indoors, number one, right? This quicker we stop the spread of this, the faster we get out of it. Number two, you got to look at your own individual situation, right? If you have the savings, if you're okay, and it's one of those things that's too good to be true, don't take advantage of it. This is one of them. If you don't need it, don't do it. And not only that, if you don't need it, it makes it more available to the people who do. Okay. You know, one of the beautiful things about situations like this is the whole country comes together. Everybody's helping each other out. Everybody's taking care of each other. If we start taking advantage of programs just because they're available and when you don't need it, you're taking it away from the people who really do. Okay. And again, I can't stress this enough. If everybody remembers back in 2008, things changed monthly. They told you to do one thing 1 month and you found out 3 months later that that was really bad decision. We don't know what's going on. Don't make any crazy decisions on anything. Let this play out over the next month, right? If we are able to mellow out this curve, things will go somewhat back to normal, but they won't be perfect. I'll give you an example, restaurants, right? If you're in the restaurant industry, even though you get your job back, you're not going to make the same amount of money. They're going to have to separate tables. Nobody's going to want to sit shoulder to shoulder anymore, which means a restaurant's losing a third to half their tables. Okay, business, concerts, sporting events. Who's going to want to be right behind somebody drunk, spitting, yelling on top of you, right, at a sporting event? This is going to have an impact, right? And if you're increasing your mortgage payment now with forbearance, you don't know if you're going to be able to pay that back. You don't know if that income stream that you had prior is going to be there in the next couple of months. Right? So take it day by day, take advantage of programs when you need them, learn about them, get them in place. So when you do need them, you're educated about them, but don't jump on something just because it looks available and it sounds like a great thing to do. There's so many unforeseen circumstances.
Steve, you mentioned sporting events, people drinking and spitting. That's half the fun. But you're right. The world's never going to be the same again. It's one of the things I hope sticks with us is I notice a lot of people do these Zoom meetings, video chats, and that's something we really didn't do a lot before. So just some small things. There are some positives I hope we keep from that. But I want to thank you for giving me a few minutes talking to the public about this so we can share it with the people out there. I'm sure if they have any questions, they can come to you over at Country First Mortgage, and you'd be glad to share them the vast knowledge that you do have. Great team over there. But it's very important, I think, that we make a way to share this information with other people, especially when there's so many questions out there and so much uncertainty. So I really appreciate you saying, we don't know what's going to happen in the next month. The whole situation could change. They could come out with new programs. And I think it is important. Don't hoard. Don't take what you don't need. If you're not in that position, leave it for the other people. So I've noticed that we've all switched goodbye with stay well and stay healthy. So I'm going to say stay healthy and all the best to your family. And thanks for a few minutes together. I'm glad to see you.
Thank you, David. And everybody, yeah, as David said, stay safe. And if I can help anybody anytime, feel free to reach out to me on Facebook. I'd love to talk to more people. I'm sick and tired of the people I have around me. So feel free to call me anytime. Thank you, everybody.